All right. Well, hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us today and for always supporting our podcast. This is the Fearless Show, and I have a really, really amazing guest here today. I'm so happy to have her. As you guys know, we record a couple times a month, and all of our podcasts are on the website, The Fearless Show, and also on our YouTube page, The Fearless Show. So definitely make sure that you catch our past episodes because they've all been really, really good. And then soon we'll be on multiple platforms and we'll share that with you as well. So I'm your girl, Sue Fearless. And again, I'm happy to be here with you today. So excited for this interview. So without further ado, we have Janet Peguero, which is our deputy Bronx Borough president. And again, I'm so excited to have her. I actually met her, I'm gonna say about a month ago at an event, and I've heard so many amazing things about her prior to meeting her. And then we also share a similar last name, so that was exciting. I just wanted to go up to her and tell her that. So we got to talking, and we're here today. And again, she's been doing a lot of incredible things. So I'm super honored to be able to have her on our platform and to bring all the great things she's done to the audience. So excited to have you. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. And I just want to emphasize the importance of having these types of shows, especially for women, to encourage women. And so I just want to recognize you and give you your flowers for creating a space where our voices are amplified. So thank you. Thank you for having me on. It's really an honor and a pleasure to be on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that as well. I agree. It is super important, especially for us to support each other. I think that the more of us that come together, the greater and the stronger that will be. So thank you again. And I just want to mention you look beautiful. So I'm loving the Sunday vibes.
Yes, I mentioned this earlier. I'm giving you my authentic self on a Sunday. It's just like the days where the one day, sometimes I don't even get it. But where I get to, let my hair down and just be me, just be Janet and not,
Yes.
my title.
Yeah, but I think that that's what everyone loves about you, that you are fully authentic and you are yourself and you represent where you come from and all of that stuff. So I'm definitely going to get into the questions so we can talk about your background and all of that. So my first question is, how does it feel to be a part of history as the first Black and Latina women of color in office, as the Bronx Borough president, and the first Dominican deputy Bronx Borough president?
To be honest with you, I didn't know that when we were coming into office, we were checking off so many boxes. That wasn't the purpose behind Vanessa's campaign. It wasn't what I was thinking about when I supported her through her campaign. It wasn't something that I was, kind of like organizing behind the scenes. It really wasn't, it really took me by surprise when my appointment came up, when it was time to make the announcement, that one of our staffers was just like, did you know that you're this and that, like the first in so many areas. And I was just like, well, at first I was just like honored, but then I was like, that's a problem, right? It's 2022, and we've been in these spaces, right? This is our community, and the fact that I am the first, yes, it's an enormous honor. Like it's truly, and I said this in the inauguration speech, it's a dream that I didn't know I could dream, right? Because I didn't see many of me in these spaces, or people that look like me in these spaces. And so although it was a moment of celebration, it was also an awakening for me, right? It was something that I knew, but I think that as a community, we're kind of numb to it. And so for me, it was a small snippet of like, wow, this is amazing. I get to, represent the real community in this space, in this office, but also it's 2022 and we have a bigger problem, right? We need to break down these walls and break down these silos and really bring up real representation from our communities, especially women of color, folks that are historically marginalized, because these are the policies and the programs that are created to serve
Exactly.
our communities. And
Yes.
so for me, it was a glimpse of happiness and joy and honor. But then I was just like, wow, there's a bigger problem here that we need to work on, create awareness around and amplify.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. But nonetheless, I think it's an amazing thing. So it starts with you guys, right? So
Yeah,
even though that there is an issue and we do need to have more people like us, representing us, advocating for us and things like that, I think this is one of the many beginnings, so
absolutely.
it's a beautiful thing, and to see the both of you at the recent event, together and just showing that unity and showing that representation for us, it was just an amazing thing because
And
yeah.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yes.
And one of the things that I love about she's my boss, she's my sister, and she's my partner in service. Um, we are very aware of the challenges, the stigmas, the adversity, and everywhere we go, we walk in with that awareness, right? So one of the things that I love about the borough president, Vanessa Gibson, that she does constantly, and I'm learning that from her, is that whenever she has the mic, she makes sure that I also get the mic, right? And if we're at an event where she's being recognized, she is constantly also recognizing me. And I think that there is so much to say about that, right? It's about, we can all coexist together.
Yes.
And it's not about being the first, but ensuring that we're leaving the doors open for the next generation to come in, and that we are just setting the example and creating that foundation, so when the next generation does come in, it's firm and it's
Yes.
tight and it's right and it's solid. And that's something that I truly admire about Vanessa, that she is constantly ensuring that wherever she has space, that I am also a part of that space. If she has a seat at the table, she's ensuring that I also have a seat at the table. And that's what I'm learning from her leadership, and what I'm embedding in my leadership, ensuring that I'm also, acknowledging and, creating space where space is not often given to us, right? So ensuring that if I'm bringing staff with me, or if I'm bringing my colleagues, that they also have a voice and they also have a say, and that they also have a seat at the table. And that has been, I think, the most beautiful element of our partnership is that it's constant.
Yeah.
We're always collaborating and we're always together. I have her back, she has my back, and that's how we build.
I love that. I love that you just said that you talked about that because for me, and we're both Dominican descent, so I love that. So for me, like when I started my journey with women empowerment, um I found myself being in these spaces because I was referred by someone, I was introduced by someone, and I've that's always been embedded in me as well. And I've always made sure that anything that I do, I'm also bringing in anyone who's doing anything great in any type of space and bringing them in for opportunity, for anything like that. So I really love that. And as far as like the women community goes, I think it's so great that you're both showing that unity, because although we come from different cultures, we have similar struggles, we can still come together and work together to be advocates for,
Absolutely. And our
both.
similarities are greater than
Yes,
our differences, right? I think
exactly.
that's what's important. I think systemically our communities are encouraged to be divided,
Yes.
right? Systemically, we are encouraged to be divided. And the Black and Latino community is the way that I see it is it's one, right? Because our
Yes.
similarities really are greater, way greater than our differences.
Mhm.
And when we look at our lineage, when we look at the Dominican diaspora, it's infused with the African diaspora.
Yes.
And so when we sit at the table and we start analyzing the challenges of our communities, they're one and the same. They're one and the same. And so if we are divided, we cannot get the resources that we need to the communities that we're working towards, right? If we're not on the same page, then we're creating more adversity for the same purpose and the same mission and the same communities that we're serving. And so it's, in this battle, and I'm sure that you've experienced it as women, especially as women of color, we're told no.
Yeah.
More often than we're given a yes. And when we do get a yes, we capitalize and we run with it, right? And it's just like, I just need that one yes to get through the door, and and we'll make it through. And so if she gets a yes and I get a no, together we have a yes.
Exactly.
Right. And so that is something that, I think as women of color, we have to cultivate, that we're not in competition with one another, that we are stronger together, that we can capitalize way more, and we can galvanize through coalition building, right? And we can access so much more if we come together. Because again, my no, but her yes gives me a yes, right? So the door that she's opening, I can get through that as well. And so it's to your point, is bringing folks with you along the way. And that's been the motto of this administration, that as we climb, we're pulling folks along with us, for the ride and along the way. And I've, we talk about tribes, having our girl tribes, having a girls group, and the reality. And I said this when I accepted the award at the Power 100. I am as strong as my group chat.
Yes.
Right. I am as strong as the women in my group chat, right? Because whenever I am faced with a difficult decision or a difficult conversation, I'm running it through my group chat.
Yeah.
Which is made out of women, who have my back constantly. And so I that's why I appreciate, the invitation to your podcast and to this platform, because I've learned and I've grown through women empowerment, through the encouragement of women, through the encouragement of Black and Latina women. And it's because of Black and Latina women that I get to be the first of many in this position, because of their sacrifices and their support.
Yeah, absolutely. That was beautifully said. It's all about community coalition, like you said, just supporting each other no matter what background we come from, just supporting each other, and I'll say one little note to this topic before we move on. But I remember attending the Women's March in DC. And it was a beautiful thing to see that, the coordinators, the leaders of that were women from all different backgrounds. And it was beautiful to see women marching from all different backgrounds, right? So I think that that's the important piece that we have to take from it. Yes, we all have different struggles, but like you said, we have more similarities than not, right? And we can support each other. We can support each other's cultures, each other's differences, each other's struggles. I think that that's the most important thing, instead of focusing on, well, my struggle, is different from yours and it's worse than yours, or whatever the case is. It's more like, let me learn.
Right.
I know when everything was going on with Black Lives Matter, I did interview a couple people because I wanted to learn more. Right. So I have a lot of really close friends in the Black community, but I still felt like there's more I wanted to learn about the history. Like, why are we outraged? Why are we, so mad? What has been done, to the Black community? So I think just, educating ourselves and, like you said, supporting each other. So definitely, yes. So let's talk a little bit about your background. I know you're from the Dominican Republic, and I believe you came here as an immigrant, right?
Yes, I was born in Santo Domingo. I came to this country at the age of 6.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So tell me a little bit about that. Tell me how you grew up. Tell me a little bit about your Latina background and like what influenced you and things like that.
Yes. So, I always speak highly of, my upbringing. And although it was a tough one, faced with many challenges. It wasn't an easy one. It really built, this essence of who I am today, right? It's a huge piece of my becoming. So I was born in the Dominican Republic, en la capital, Santo Domingo, soy
Oh, that's where I'm
capitaleña.
from too. Yes.
From this, and I have dogs, so please,
Okay.
I have two dogs, and my husband today was just like, you get to walk them, and I'm like, yes, because throughout the week he's walking them.
Right.
So please disregard the dogs in the back. But going back to that, born in the neighborhood of Villa Consuelo. I don't know if you're familiar, but it's really at the center. It's like the epicenter of the capital, and born to my mom and dad. My father at the time, a taxi driver here in the States. My mom uh, uh, in the Dominican Republic raised us, and at the age of 5, the whole immigration process, right? The applying for residency and applying for a green card. That one within itself, I remember it vividly. I think for any immigrant, that process is something that you carry with you
Mhm.
your entire life, because it's a reminder of how much work we have to do with the
Yes.
immigration system, right? Like the immigration system here is not perfect anywhere, it's not perfect, but what it does to families is something that, kind of pains you. And although that you're sacrificing and you're working towards a greater purpose,
Right.
it still creates this instability of distancing families for some
Mhm.
time. And so
Yes.
at the age of 5, my mother, her paperwork processed earlier than us. So it's me and a younger sister. We're Irish twins, so we're only like 13 months apart.
Okay.
But my younger sister and I had to stay behind, as my mom went through the process, and so we were left behind with relatives.
Mhm.
So we parted from our parents for a solid, it feels like 2 years, because the process, it's a very spotty process. It's not a seamless process.
Mhm.
So my parents came first, and my sister and I stood behind, and that kind of brought us back a little bit in terms of our learning curve, in
Mhm.
terms of language and learning the language, etc.
Right.
So we were there for about 2 years before our paperwork finally processed, and we received our green card. And that was rough, right? Because think about two young girls at the age of 3 and 4. I was 4.5 turning 5, who were, separated from their parents, right?
Right.
At such a crucial age. And I get emotional speaking about it, because I think about 4-year-old Janet,
I
5-year-old
know.
Janet, and what she endured during
Mhm.
those years of separation from her parents. And so we went through some challenges that weren't, for those 2 years, there wasn't a stable home, there wasn't a stable, again, our parents weren't there. So
Right.
we were kind of traveling from auntie to auntie to auntie. So I'm very grateful for my tias and
Yeah.
La República, who really cared for us for those 2 years, who, ensured that although we didn't have like a stable home, that we were still fed, that we were clothed, that, we still had access to, education, although it was limited, still very much supported, and that we were cared for and that we were loved. But at that time I transitioned, when all the paperwork was processed, I came here at the age of 6, still very much tied to my Dominican upbringings, because every summer we will go back to our tias that
Yeah.
raised us for 2 years. So every summer my mom shipped us off, and
Yes.
I loved it because it was a sense of home. And
Yes.
so I think the immigrant experience, it's, at least for me, speaking personally, there's still every time I go back to the island, I feel complete.
Yeah.
It's as if I left a piece of me back
Mhm.
in the Dominican Republic, and my entire family is still out there. So my
Right.
cousins and, those that were close in our age are, those were all our siblings. So when we came to this
Mhm.
country, we didn't have, the cousins. I didn't have like that cousin experience of like, I'm going to my cousin's house or I'm going to my
Right.
cousin's house, because they were also in the Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
And so my friends became my family. So
Yeah.
that's my immigrant experience. And
Mhm.
and and I also said this in the inauguration speech that, as an immigrant child, when you come to this country, your friends become your family. And so
It's true.
it,
Yeah. Oh my
yeah,
God. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. Oh my God,
absolutely.
that's such a wonderful story. And I mean, your parents must be so proud. They must be so proud. Like you came, as an immigrant and now you are like a political advocate, like that's
Who would
so
have thought?
amazing. I know. That's so
And the
amazing.
reality is I never came into my career, and I'm sure we'll get into it later,
Yeah.
but I never came into my career wanting a political career. It's really what I am today is just a reflection of what I saw growing up that just pained me, right?
Yeah.
That pained me, my family, my community. And I grew as immigrant children,
Yes.
or as Latino kids. We grow up in especially Dominican households, right?
Yeah.
We grow up being advocates. At
Yes.
the moment I spoke a word in English, my mom was like, "¿Qué es lo que dice esto?" Like,
Right.
translate for me. And so we were translators and advocates at a very young age,
That
because
is so
not
true.
only did we have to learn to navigate this new system, and so
Mhm.
when I came here at the age of 6, I didn't know a single soul. And
Right.
and I came, I will never forget, I came in the month of September, and in like 3 days I was in the public school system, right? So
Wow.
I didn't have like the opportunity to like adjust and get
Yeah.
to know this new world, this new country, this new language.
Right.
And I came from having a house con un patio and a backyard to like a small apartment,
Right.
with like barely no windows. And what you mean I can't go play outside? And what you mean I can't play with water?
Right.
This was, like I grew up playing with plants, playing with chickens,
Yeah.
and buscando el mango, and buscando el
Mhm.
aguacate, getting the mango, getting the avocados, and to having to go to the bodega and figuring it out. Um,
Right.
so it was a very abrupt transition, but a
Yeah.
transition that nonetheless is not unique to me.
Right.
I know that I speak for many immigrant children that, when they come to this country, it's just, and then you come to New York.
Right. Oh my goodness.
Some you're going to Florida or another state that
Right.
it's similar to, the
To the
climate,
islands.
to the
Yeah.
island, but you're coming to New York, it's gritty.
Yes.
And when I came to this country, I landed in Harlem first,
Okay.
before moving to the Bronx. And so I landed in Harlem, and Harlem in the 90s, very similar to Bronx in the 90s, right? Where
Yes.
I always say that Uptown is one of the same. We should be our own borough.
Right.
Because, as you come in, and it's very abrupt,
Yeah.
and there's really no time to adjust. And it's
Right.
just we just got to get it together.
Yeah.
And so my heart goes out to every immigrant
Yes.
child that comes here at such a tender age, because our parents are also figuring it out.
Yes.
And they also
Absolutely.
don't have the tools to help us navigate accordingly, because they're on
Right.
survival mode. And so
Mhm.
we're quickly kind of thrown into
Mhm.
that same similar mode, where at that age you're supposed to be nurtured, taken care
Right.
of, guided,
Mhm.
but you're in it with your family together, and that's tough.
Yeah.
It's rough.
It is. It is. It's a tough transition. And even, our parents that came to this country and everything they had to endure too, and like you said, figure it out and figure out how they're going to provide for their family here, and things like that. It's a very, very humbling experience.
Absolutely.
So, thank you for sharing that. I think that everyone who shares a similar story will appreciate your story. Yeah. So thank you for that. And that actually leads me to my next question. So I was going to ask you, I know you said as Latinos, we are advocates since we're small. That is true. So I know you mentioned that was part of your inspiration. So what else inspired you to get into this lane that you're in, this forum you're in right now?
Yeah, it's really at the core, it's really my upbringing, right? It's having to help my mom navigate, you know, public assistance, social resources, you know, translate documents and letters that were coming in, seeing her work 2 jobs. My father was also a public servant after he spent many years as a cab driver, a taxi driver in the 90s. Again, I don't think I think everyone that is tuning in will understand that reference. But after that, after he retired, being a taxi driver, he became a school aide. And my father was, you know, when I think back of it, a huge inspiration. He was a school aide for many years. I saw him working throughout the weekends. He actually then later on became a school aide at my high school. I went to Frederick Douglass Academy 1
Okay.
in Harlem. The 1 makes a difference because we're the founding FDA institution. And I remember him giving up his weekends and his time with us because we had a chess team in our high school, and the chess team was composed of obviously the instructors and the captains, but they didn't have enough staff to help travel. So our chess team was one of the highest ranking chess teams in the city. And again, my high school was predominantly Black. So it was a predominantly Black high school. The Latino population was very small, but again, that I consider myself an Afro-Latina. So I was in my essence.
Yes.
And I remember him just giving up his weekends to be a part of the chess team, to help them travel and lend additional support because we didn't have the staffing capacity and the resources. And so he gave up his time with us to go support the students so that they can travel citywide and across the state for competitions. And that was beautiful. I saw how dedicated he was to the development of Black and brown kids in a field where they're not often, you never look at a Black and brown kid and think that they're chess masters.
Right.
And here he was lending, you know, his time, his free time to support the chess team, and then seeing my mom work 2 jobs, and my father also worked 2 jobs in addition to being a school aide and working weekends. He also worked at a hotel. But I saw that, like, how much we had to do to just survive, right? My upbringing was still tough. My resources were still limited. I wasn't fully resourced and fully supported. You know, I had to work at a very early age when my parents separated. But again, it's just that essence of, I just couldn't understand why it was almost as we were stuck in quicksand.
Yes.
We're surviving, working, but we still lack basic resources. We were still faced with many eviction notices. I remember coming home from school in elementary school and coming home to eviction notices, and it was a consistent, and I couldn't understand why. And so in the essence of being an advocate at an early age and translating for my parents, also influenced by them and their spirit of just providing for us and working tirelessly to provide for us, and still not making ends meet. And again, being a product of the public school system, not understanding why we had to share textbooks, and why we couldn't take our textbooks home, right? And why we didn't have certain resources, why we didn't have laptops, and why we didn't have computers, and why we were so limited in just the basics. And I will never forget this. One of my high school teachers took us to a district, and I want to say somewhere upstate or somewhere in Jersey. I just knew that it wasn't the city of New York, and I wish I could remember this. And I remember that they had labs, computer labs, chem labs, bio labs, that, you know, their lunchroom looked very different, that their hallways had tech support. They had an immense library. I just, and he did that to just show us kind of like how, you know, what the differences were, and the real challenges and the disadvantages. And I couldn't help but think that this was systemic, right? And early on, I learned that who had the power to fund, who were the folks that were making key decisions, who were the folks that were either being silent or not advocating enough for us. We live in the richest city of the world, and you still have kids in Harlem and in the Bronx sharing textbooks or not having access to the internet. And that, to me, I couldn't understand it. And it riled me up. I was just angry as a child. I was very angry. I was very disruptive. I was a troubled teenager because I just couldn't understand. I just couldn't understand. And it took me to lean in to just, the BP, the borough president says this often, but it's truly my mantra: turn your pain into purpose. And so I was just pained with the challenges and the disadvantages. And I just wanted to understand why. And so I started working in government after undergrad. First, I stepped into the nonprofit sector because I just knew that I had a calling to just serve, because I wanted to serve my community, because I wanted to, you know, get this education and bring that back to my community. So I went to SUNY Binghamton University, a state university, is a public institution. And I knew that I was going away only for 4 years, and I wanted to bring all of that knowledge back. And in that, and in coming back, I saw that things still didn't change. In 4 years that I was away, things were worse. You know, my mother was getting priced out of her apartment. You know, Section 8 was lowering her support, but she wasn't making more money. You know, prices were rent was just increasing. Prices were increasing. Even right now, we have an issue with inflation, right? So I was just so angry for a very long time. And I was very anti-government. I just, to be clear, very, very, very anti-government. And I was just like, well, why not lean into the enemy to really understand what and how things work, and how distribution is made, and how allocations are made. Why not lean into it? And early on, I was just like, I don't want to be a politician. I just want to work behind the scenes and like understand how programs are designed. And I had an amazing career in working for a city agency where I was designing programs, and I was bringing my personal lens to the conversation, and, you know, the personal anecdotes from my communities into the conversation. And that's when I understood that having a person of color from these communities really made a difference. Because I think, you know, and this is not to fault city agencies, but there's this idea of creating a program. And because government has been working in this way for so long, there's this idea of creating this program. So we're just going to follow the protocols and just build it and just do it. And I knew that there was a disconnect. And I knew that there was a disconnect between program and access, right? Because I've been in the system and I know how difficult it is. So as I was building programs, one of the things that I would do, and this is a best practice for me during my time in government, how will my mom navigate this application? if I was to show this application to my mom, how would she navigate this application?
Right.
Because my mom is a reflection of the many women
Yes.
that are leading their households
Yes.
in our communities, in the Bronx, in Washington
Mhm.
Heights, in Uptown, in Queens,
Mhm.
in Brownsville, Brooklyn. Those are the women that are leading the charge. So how will my mom navigate this application? And so
Mhm.
I always ensure that if I couldn't explain it to my mom, then I failed as a public servant, because
Mhm.
she is the community that I'm serving.
Right.
And so that was my guiding principle, and that's how I manage programs, that's how I design programs, that's how I informed my outreach, always wanting to be at the table or at the conversations
Yes.
where programs were being designed, because when you're so in it, you just, again, not faulting city agencies, but when you're in it, you just want to make sure that you're abiding by protocols and by the rules and by the law. And sometimes we miss that human essence
Yes.
in that. And
Absolutely.
so that was my guiding
Yeah.
principle. And that's how I met the borough president during her time in the city council. And there was an initiative in her corridor with the Jerome rezoning, where I was doing the outreach for working with the small businesses and really understanding what their challenges were. And again, just a love and passion for creating and designing programs and
Mhm.
connecting with the community. And so
Yeah.
that's how I landed. Oh, and the piece of like my upbringing and my
Yes.
family, and seeing how it was so challenging for them to
Mhm.
navigate resources, but our parents did the best that they could. The
Right.
Black and Brown community, that's what we're constantly doing, is just doing the best that we can with what we
And
have
getting by.
and getting by. But I think
Yeah.
as public servants, our mission is to, kind of remove those barriers from access, that
Mhm.
red tape that's constantly there, that I understand why, right? Like I understand
Right.
why they're there, but there needs to be just greater flexibility around
Yes.
access. So meeting people where they are,
Yeah.
not where they think they are.
Right. Absolutely. I think it's so great that we have people like you who are advocating for us because
Yeah.
you come from it, right? And that's why you wanted to know more. You wanted to understand it because, like you said, when you're creating your programs, you're referring to your mom.
Yeah.
That to me was is super key and the most important thing that I took from this, because it is true. If our parents and we, as we become adults and parents, if we're not understanding these programs that are handed to us, we're not going to be able to fully take advantage of these
Right.
resources.
Right.
So I think that that's super important. I think we need more people like you.
Oh, thank you. And
Yes.
the way that I view my position is twofold. It's not just to, you know, be here, and obviously it is to do the work, because at my core it's about servitude, it's about service.
Mhm.
I am very also grounded in my faith. I consider myself a child of God, and so in being a child of God, it's all about service, it's about serving your community. But it's also, I will love, if there's anything that's taken away from this moment right now, is to inspire other young
Yes.
Latina, Dominicana, Puerto
Yes.
Riqueña, it doesn't matter, young women of color, to take up space in spaces
Mhm.
where we're not often welcome, because they're designed to not welcome us in, because they know
Exactly.
the power that
Exactly.
comes when we walk into that door.
Yes.
We're going to question everything. We're going to say that,
Yes.
well, that doesn't work, that doesn't work, that doesn't work. Let's go back to the drawing board. And
Exactly.
it's that level of accountability that, and that grittiness
Mhm.
that intimidates folks,
Yeah.
but I love that. I'm just like, bring
Yeah.
it. And to your point, and you mentioned this earlier, I come in as my authentic self
Yes.
every room.
Yes.
I'm not going to act like I know everything, because I don't. I'm
Mhm.
going to lean in if I don't, and I'm going to ask the questions if I don't.
Exactly.
And I think growing up, and I don't know if this was your experience, but growing up, we weren't encouraged to ask questions.
Right.
There was
That's
always
true.
this fear of like, no, 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 cállate, no, don't ask too much, don't, because, and I think it's that immigrant fear
Yes.
of being uncovered for whatever reason, right? It's deep rooted. So we have to heal from that. And that's one of the things that I had to heal from early on when I stepped into government, that I had to ask questions.
Yes.
I'm like, how am I asking questions if I was never encouraged to ask
Exactly.
questions?
Exactly.
When I was, especially as women, it's even deeper for us to not ask questions. Mira, muchacha,
Right.
no pregunte mucho, don't ask too many questions.
Exactly.
Or compórtate, or behave, right? And that is constant. So we have layers of healing.
Yes.
And when I stepped into government, it was really twofold. It was just like, okay, now I'm learning this monster, but I also have to heal this monster within me,
Right.
of this trauma of not asking questions, or of being intimidated, of feeling like, oh my God, I'm the only one. What if my accent comes out? What if
Right.
what
I
if
think about that all the
all
time.
the time? And you know what? I love when it happens,
Yes.
because it's like, it's my bilingual brain working. I'm sorry, I can't control it. It is who I am. It is who I am. And those really uncomfortable, episodes really forced me to just like, just step into my power, step into my purpose, and say, yo,
Right.
yes,
I'm here.
I have an accent. Yes, yo soy una dominicana. Yes, if it gets too humid outside, my hair gonna act crazy.
Right.
All of these things is just like, yes, this is me and this is my essence, but this is also the community that you're representing.
Exactly.
So I'm gonna show up with my hoop earrings, and I am gonna show up and drop a Jay-Z verse, because I am hip hop. I grew up in hip hop. I grew up in that culture. This is who you're representing. And there's so much power in our nimbleness to be able to switch off and on.
Exactly.
And that's what I want to encourage.
That's where the fear is.
There
for
is
everyone else.
There is
the way we're able to do that, the way we're able to connect,
right there.
We're able to transform.
We have the secret sauce.
We do.
We have the secret sauce, because look at how I'm connecting with you, but come Monday, I'm regulating,
Right.
And
Exactly.
and that is that. I always say that I'm building community because it's about the people that I represent, and the people, and I am those people. I am that, and they are me. And so there's so much power in our authenticity. And I just want people to know that, show up as your authentic self. Show up prepared, be prepared, but be your authentic self when you are navigating these rooms, because there is so much power in that. There's so much power in that.
I think use your voice, amplify your voice. That's also a major part of the reason why I started my podcast, is so that, I myself wasn't always the most, I felt like I wasn't the strongest communicator. I had to work on that, my public speaking, being comfortable, things like that. So this platform has helped me so much. And I always say that I use my voice, and that's what has changed so many things for me. But also I come from the corporate world. So I understand what having to, feeling like you are quiet, you don't have a seat at the table, you can't speak up for yourself, you can't wear your hair a certain way in corporate and things like that. That's why I wanted to break away from corporate, because of that stigma, right? But thankfully, we're living now in a time where we're finally, like you said, using our voice, stepping up, showing up authentically as ourselves, and it's being finally accepted. It's still a battle, but it's being accepted, and we keep breaking those barriers.
Absolutely. And I just want to acknowledge that it's not easy.
Right.
I want to acknowledge that, we're saying this, but as we were navigating it, it was hard.
Yes.
Right. I also stepped into the private sector for a little bit, and I was just like, I was the only Latina. I stepped into a consulting firm, and I was a lobbyist for a year, and I was like, I would never be a lobbyist. How dare I? But I consider myself a good lobbyist, and I worked for a really good consulting firm that did amazing work. But I remember going in and kind of shooting myself in the foot and saying, no, I
Mhm.
cannot be the only one, because I know
Right.
the pain that comes from that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, yes, it comes with pain.
Yes.
Yes, it comes with a
Mhm.
responsibility. But the moment that you accept that responsibility, it becomes less burdensome,
Exactly.
right? And
Exactly.
it's just saying like,
Mhm.
sí, yo tengo esta responsabilidad. Yes, this is gonna be
Mhm.
hard, and this is, yeah, I'm gonna kick and scream. Yes, I'm gonna cry in the bathroom. Yes, I'm gonna,
Yeah.
but it's accepting that that is
Yes.
what I'm going to do to
Mhm.
create space for the women that are gonna come after me, for the
Right.
Latinas and the Black women that are gonna come after me, because there have been so many ancestors before us
Right.
that fought tougher battles,
Yes. Yes. Everything
you
comes,
know?
everything comes with a challenge. Everything. So
Right.
we
And
have
it's
to just accept
accepting
it.
it.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
accepting that that is your assignment,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And that's the way that I see it, accepting that this is my assignment.
Yeah.
And at this moment in time, I'm going to get this A on this assignment,
Yes.
because
Yes.
I am going to figure out how I can navigate this,
Yes.
so that the person that comes after me doesn't
Mhm.
have to navigate it in the way that I did, just like our
Right.
parents did, right? Like,
Right.
we are
Mhm.
here, so when we do become mothers, our children are not going to go into this rat race
Right.
of survival mode,
Exactly.
because we found the cheat code,
Right.
right? We're already
Exactly.
working
Yes.
towards like, how can I
Yeah.
work smarter and not harder?
Exactly.
And so when you accept it as an assignment, it really does, it becomes more digestible and
Yeah.
less
Yeah.
burdensome.
Yeah.
And that's what whenever I do walk into these spaces, it's just
Mhm.
like, sí, soy una Latina, sí, soy
Mhm.
Dominicana, sí,
Mhm.
sometimes the words I'm gonna miss them. Sometimes I'm gonna forget like,
Right.
the verbiage is gonna be a little limited
And
today,
that's
but
okay.
and that's
Yeah.
okay.
And that's okay.
And that is
Yeah.
completely okay, you know?
Exactly. Well, thank you for being our vessel. Yes, and being
Honor.
this person for us. There's like so much more I wanted to get into, so I'm gonna bring you back for sure.
We'll
But
be
thank you
back.
for being our voice in our community. Thank you for all of the great work that you're doing. I know you've also represented us in other spaces like I know you work for the SBA, and you just have done so many amazing things. And definitely next time I do want to touch on more of that. But just let us know like what's next. I know we talked about so many hardships in our communities and things like that. If you could just share like a little snippet on I know we just got out of a pandemic, kind of, we're kind of still in it. Like what's next? What's happening in our communities?
Yeah, so there's so much, right? We're still healing and grieving from COVID, and it's still
Mhm.
very much out there. Monkeypox was just declared a national health emergency. And when we look at the entire nation, the state of New York is once again the epicenter.
Yeah.
So we are working diligently with all levels of government, with the mayor, with the governor,
Mhm.
to ensure that we have access, that the Bronx has access,
Right.
that our Black and Brown folks have access. There's also has been an issue with just obtaining the vaccine,
Right.
obtaining an appointment to get the vaccine. And so we're working with strong anchor community-based organizations to ensure that we are getting the vaccine out and the appointments out to the folks that need it the most, but that have challenges with access. Again,
Right.
that the topic and the theme of access, that's what we didn't learn from COVID.
Exactly.
It's just
Right.
like really targeting the communities that
Mhm.
we know have a
Mhm.
challenge with access, and that's
Right.
equity, right?
Right.
Equity is ensuring that we're prioritizing and that our resources are going to the communities that are have been historically underserved and historically hardest hit. And so that's what we're doing with monkeypox right now. Um, one of the bigger projects that I'm currently working on at the Borough President's office is the cannabis industry.
Okay.
So again, coming from a community that was criminalized
Yes.
and unjustly incarcerated for the smallest amount of gram of cannabis. Now with the legalization of cannabis, ensuring that those communities that were highly criminalized, and the folks that were justice involved, that they get first dibs. at licenses and opportunities and
Okay.
providing technical assistance
I
and,
love that.
and working with the both city and state to develop funding opportunities and
Mhm.
access to capital programs. And so really working on that, that's
Yes.
been kind of like my biggest project, my most exciting project coming on, but also on the issue of Black maternal mortality and morbidity. We have in the state of New York, the Bronx and Brooklyn has the highest rates, unfortunately, of
Mm.
death rates amongst
Right.
mothers, particularly Black and Brown
Mhm.
mothers, Black and Latina mothers, with Black women being at highest risk. And
Right.
so working on that issue and working with our community and our doulas and
Mhm.
our healthcare providers to ensure that we have different access and opportunities to healthcare facilities. So
Right.
in the borough of the Bronx, we don't have a birthing center. All other boroughs have birthing centers and we
Yeah.
do not. And so how can, it's understanding what can we do at the borough president's office
Mhm.
at that level to ensure that we're working with both city and state
Mhm.
to recognize that we need these resources and these facilities in
Right.
the borough of the Bronx. And so
Right.
for me, the theme is always equity and access. And
Yes.
so ensuring that we're thinking broadly on different areas, but where are the biggest disparities, right? And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
it's in economic development, and it's also in healthcare, and
Right.
so and health and human services. And so
Yes.
that's been a big focus for me, and I'm really embedded in the cannabis industry, and again ensuring that our people get access and that
Mhm.
they have the resources that they need to understand what the legalization of cannabis really
Yes.
means, and the programming that's coming down the pike. And
Yes.
so that's been my focus. And right now, monkeypox, I just want
Yeah.
to emphasize that if you're looking for an appointment for a vaccine, our offices are there to support
Okay.
and ensuring that we're taking proper precaution to ensure our safety and our wellness,
Okay.
because with both healthcare crises,
Mhm.
we are
Yeah.
vulnerable.
Okay. Well, thank you. That's all of the things that I am very interested in seeing come to fruition. So thank you so much. I know that we will definitely, benefit greatly from all of the work that you guys are doing. So
Thank you.
I'll keep in touch with you. Yeah.
Yes,
And I'm here to support and assist in any way that I can.
yes,
And I would also love to maybe talk about putting a women's event together, things
absolutely.
like
We're working
that.
on it. So
Yeah.
you're part of it. That's
Yes.
one of the things where that's cooking, that's in the works.
Yes.
Know that we are there's I don't want to say it because I don't want to disclose some of the amazing stuff that we're working on, but know that when women are at the table, we're
Yes.
doing the work, and the work is getting done, and there's exciting things that are coming through our office. And I'm just really excited. I'm
Yeah.
excited to do the work, and again excited to collaborate with our community partners, and your
Yes.
podcast is part of it. And I just want to
Yes.
thank you
Of
for
course.
creating the space, for your courage to say yes to us, and developing this platform where we can speak freely, and I can let down my hair and just have a
Yeah.
conversation.
I love it. This was so great. Such a great conversation that we had today. And I look forward to, continuing that conversation. So
Absolutely.
thank you also again for all the work you do. Thank you for coming on the platform. And I'm definitely going to keep in touch.
Yes, please
So
do.
I'll share
Please do.
everything with you. So everyone, thank you so much for watching this episode. I sat with Bronx Borough President, Janet Peguero, and just tune in, check out the interview. Definitely, we talked about a lot of great things, and they're making a lot of great impact in our community. So thank you so much again for
Thank
being here. I
you.
appreciate
Te
you.
veo pronto.
Sí, te veo
Un
pronto.
abrazo.
Ok, cuídate.
Bye.
Bye bye.